Hi, this is Theo from Comic Shrine. Today I'm giving you my top 10 Marvel Omnibuses. Now, the last few years I've been collecting omnibuses and absolute editions, and I enjoy kicking back and relaxing and reading a complete story. It's the way probably forward for me in the sense of for space wise and just in the enjoyment of reading them. I'm giving you my top 10 list. Now, this is tough. This was really tough. And then to make it even harder, I hate the people that go, this is my top 10, but it's not in any order. This I'm giving you in order. I'm giving you from number 10 to number 1. On top of that, criteria. It's got to be a Marvel Omnibus. It can't be an oversized hardcover. It can't be another collected edition. It's got to have that red Marvel Omnibus. Second of all, I can't have two from the same run. Can't have two Daredevils. Can't have two X-Men. Can't have two Captain Americas. So this was hard. So without further ado, we're going to start. And number 10. It's the only Marvel Omnibus I actually don't own. It's Spider-Man by Roger Stern. Bing! Or bing! Never quite sure. This for me is my Spider-Man. I grew up on this Spider-Man, Roger Stern. Introduction of the black costume, Hobgoblin, a lot of melodrama, a lot of things happening in the background, Mary J. Watson, great art. Now, this was probably really tough to include which Spider-Man omnibus to include in there. I could have picked Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, the original, fantastic. I could have picked volume 4 of it, where we're covering the issues of around 110, 120, 130 with the first Punisher and Spider-Man versus Hulk issues. But this is mine. And it was tough to choose this, but it is mine. And that's my number 10. Here we go. The biggest whale here. Boom, boom, boom. Captain Britain by Alan Moore and a few others. If you see this book in the wind, you must grab it. It is so hard to get, and it does not look like there's going to be another printing coming in anytime soon. This was Alan Moore, young, early 80s, putting together a run of comics that were just so adult in essence. Took it very seriously, deconstructing Captain Britain, putting him back again. Why this isn't higher in my list is simply because of the other issues in the omnibus. They're not bad. Some by Alan Davis, Chris Claremont, James Delano, but really it peaks with Alan Moore and then kind of drops off either side. I mean, it does a great villain in the Fury, some mind-bending stuff, and the first mention of Earth 616, which is our Marvel universe, was here back in the 80s with Alan Moore. So that's number 9 on my list. Thor by Walter Simonson. Now, I know some people have some issues with the colouring of this edition, but avoid that. It's just a great story and great art. If you buy this, you must commit. It's the biggest volume here. It's long, but it is just everything we love and know about Thor. It really incorporates Norse mythology. Walter Simonson went back and kind of looked at Norse mythology and brought it in and modernized it in the comics. So we have, the Dark Elves, we have Ragnarok, we have Loki, the Frost Giants, we have it all. We have Thor Frog, if you know what I'm talking about. But what's fantastic about this, it's a slow paced burner in essence. That there's a lot of subplots, very Claremont like, but he had enough time to play around in his part of the universe, and it culminates in one of the final issues of 380, where he gets to draw. Every page is a splash page, everyone. So that's his double page spread. Everyone is just a big fight. Every page is splash after splash. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of Walter Simonson. I think around this time he was doing some fantastic work. I love writer artists. So that's number 8 on my list. This is number 7. Some people think it should be higher, but it's 7 on mine. The Infinity Gauntlet. Jim Starlin really takes Thanos now and takes him to another level and takes the whole cosmic universe and intertwines that story. Great kind of issues with Ron Lim, with Silver Surfer. One of my favourite runs up to the 2-parter with Thanos Quest, just with Thanos collecting all the stone and finally making that Infinity Gauntlet. Then you walk into George Perez's, issues of Infinity Gauntlet. He didn't stay the whole 6 issues, I think, just because the amount of detail and effort he put into those first, I think 3, maybe 4 issues was phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. It is the cosmic god of all crossovers. Um, it's we see in Endgame, we seen it in Infinity War. It has definitely influences. I mean, this is one of my favourite pages. Look at that. Look at that. Some of the crossover issues also included here at the back. Some of them not so strong. So that's probably why it just drops down slightly on my list. But you can't go wrong with that. Captain America, Ed Brubaker. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Winter Soldier, this is it basically. This is where it comes from. Captain America had been floundering around for a few years. No one quite knew how to write him, how to make him relevant. Sometimes it was too patriotic, too extreme on one end. I mean, I'm a big Captain America fan. I think some of his issue runs have been fantastic. This is the best it gets. And he takes Captain America, makes it a bit realistic at Brubaker, and gives it that kind of James Bond espionage kind of look. Adding the fact is he brings Bucky back, Winter Soldier, the Red Skull, the Cosmic Cube, everything we love. But it just a great pace story, phenomenal comics. The art by Steve Epting, it's got to be one of my favourite. I love that kind of realistic art that just draws me into a kind of a movie world. His whole run is fantastic, but it starts here. If you can, grab it, you won't regret it. One of the best. Number 5 on my list, The Ultimates by Mark Millar. This is where the Marvel Universe gets its ideas from. This is where the kind of the Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson came from. Mark Millar took the characters we love, went into the Ultimate Universe and just twisted them, give them that skewed kind of look. He's got fantastic writing in this, great pace, some great lines, especially the one where Captain America looks up, points to his head and he's, does this I stand for France? You get drawn in to this comic and you flick through it, you fly through it because it's so fast paced. But the art by Brian Hitch, it is, I don't know, it's like watching a Christopher Nolan film or something. It is beautiful. I mean, it's widescreen art at its best. Look at that. Bang, so detailed. I mean, a master of his trade. Again, colouring is fantastic. It really is a great omnibus. Go out, hunt it down. You won't regret it. It's everyone's favourite. Wolverine. Sneak. So, this collects Wolverine's greatest stories. And when you pick up this, you suddenly realise that Wolverine's greatest stories are actually Marvel's probably greatest stories. We start off with Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. Now, this again, it influenced X-Men 2 with Bryan Singer. We up until this point, we always hinted about Weapon X and what happened to Wolverine. Oh, it must have been bad and this and that. But the gruesome reality of what he went through, Barry Windsor Smith brings it to life. And it's a phenomenal, I think it's 12, 13 issues run. But they weren't full-sized issues. They were produced in Marvel Comics Presents, I think 6, 7, 8 pages at a time. But it collects everything together. Fantastic. Leading on to that, every issue in here I think is stellar. But at the end of the day, the best here and what makes Wolverine is the Frank Miller, Chris Claremont 4-issue miniseries. Up until that point, Chris Claremont had written Wolverine. That was his character in essence, moulded him, and he had always that berserker edge, and he's a bit of a crazy guy. And they took him to Japan, and this is where they forged that failed samurai, the Wolverine we know and love. Frank Miller on the art duties. It was nice to see Frank Miller just concentrating on art and having the belief in a good writer such as Chris Claremont. And other times it's been flipped the other way around, where it's just been where Frank Miller's just written and then someone else has done the art choice. This was really great. And ninjas, from the time I read this, I wanted to be a ninja, but my life took a different path. Top 3. This starts getting tough. Yes, baby. A Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. Jim Shooter, Mike Zeck. This is why I love comics. This made me fall in love in comics. They took all the heroes and dropped them on a world. They took all the villains and put them on the opposite side, and they said, have a fight. I mean, as a young kid, this was fantastic. I bought the stickers, I bought the toys, I fell in love. I got introduced to like the whole Marvel universe, as I understood about mutants and had their little secluded part of the world. It is just so much fun, and still it's so much fun. And don't forget, it's the first appearance of the black costume. Galactus, how badass was Galactus? My first introduction to Galactus, you know, the devourer of worlds. Doctor Doom being Doctor Doom. You could drop this in the lap of a 10-year-old kid and they will love it, and you put this in my lap and I'll love it just as much. So that's why it's number 3. Special mention, first time I fell in love with Mike Zeck's art. Big fan of Mike Zeck. This is Mike Zeck. Brilliant comic artist, brilliant cover artist, so fantastic. X-Men, Chris Claremont, Volume 2. I could have picked number 1. It could have Giant Size X-Men 1, you know, with the Alpha Flight issues in it, you know, X-Men 1, 21 to 21. It was hard, but I think there was a few, you know, issues, you know, in the first volume they're trying to find their feet, but they definitely found it quite quickly, don't get me wrong. But there isn't a bad issue in this. This is X-Men, my X-Men. This is the Dark Phoenix saga, which is the best X-Men story probably of all time, and still influences things now. We've got the Days of Future Past. 2 issues, 2 powerful issues. Fantastic. We've got some X-Men, you know, going to Marvel Family. We've got the annuals. We've got the first appearance of Rogue. We've got a real great story in here of Kitty Pryde being trapped in the mansion and finding the Brood, the alien ripoff, in their house. This is soap opera. It's melodrama. It's superheroes. It's Nightcrawler and Wolverine buddies. It's fastball specials. It's everything I love about the X-Men. I just wish I could bottle it and just throw it to people who are writing the X-Men right now and say, this is what you're missing. Just an honourable mention again, I could have thrown in X-Men Volume 2 by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. Again, fantastic issues again from the 90s, which I loved, and I was buying. But this is my X-Men, and this is number 2. Daredevil, Frank Miller. That's not Marvel Omnibus, you say? This was the first printing. They did it differently, but you still see, it's still got the Marvel Omnibus at the bottom, and it's my list. I do what I want, so it's in. This, for me, has the best Marvel story of all time. Born Again by Daredevil, Born Again, Daredevil by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. What can I say? This was noir comics for me. This was the first time I come across such realism, such seriousness in the comic. David Mazzucchelli's art is a brilliant. I had the good fortune to meet him in 2007 in the New York Comic Con, and I just wish that he was still drawing comics, because he was a phenomenal artist. And again, you know, on Batman Year One, but on here was phenomenal. Frank Miller, again, he was just concentrating on his writing, and his writing is sharp. It's hard boiled. Without giving away too much of the story, again, it's about taking Daredevil, taking him down piece by piece, and putting him back together and making him what he is. But the moments in there, you know, Karen Page, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's my favourite comic of all time. I think probably, and definitely favourite Marvel comic. But what makes this this Marvel Omnibus even better is the follow-up to it. There isn't anything bad of him. So it moves into Love and War by Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz. Sienkiewicz. You know who I mean. Apologies, Bill. An amazing artist. Completely different to anything we see with the abstract stuff. I like it in Love and War. I don't think it's too much. I can follow it. Electro Assassin, I can sometimes lose me in that book. But, I mean, this is still influencing things nowadays. So if you look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the Kingpin with a big body and a small head, it's here. This is where it first appeared. Love and War. They're moving into that. I find something that is just real magical, and that's the mini-series Frank Miller did with John Romita Jr. Kind of like the origin story, The Man Without Fear. Now, John Romita Jr. for me is very hit and miss. I respect his longevity, I respect the amount of work he does, but some of his art for me is very blocky, sometimes rushed. He's never been better. This has never been bettered for his art. I mean, I pick out this page in particular. I mean, it's just some beautiful artwork there. You could tell he loved it. You could tell he wasn't rushed. Bat Murdock jumping through the night with stick. I really love this mini-series. There's a bit of romance in there. It's like a warm blanket. I always go back to this and read. It's the beginning of Daredevil, before issue 1. It was kind of like that, just after he's lost his sight and how and why he became Devil. So before he put on that costume. This is the best Marvel Omnibus in my opinion. Everything is very strong. You can drop it in someone's lap and go, read this, and you don't have to know too much about it. So that is why this is my #1 Marvel Omnibus of all time. Now I know many of you will probably be disagreeing with my list, and I hope you do. I hope you can leave comments below and just say, this is what you got wrong, or this is what you missed, or this is what I like. Please, I would love to hear what your thoughts. This is my top 10. You're not going to change my mind, or are you? I don't know. We'll see.